General surgery is really hard to get into if you don't have real connections, if you don't have a ton of research, really good scores on your step, like a 280 or something. Now, let me tell you why that is incorrect. Hey guys, my name is Raj and I'm an IMG from India who recently matched into general surgery residency program here in the United States. In this video, I'm going to talk about the entire journey, some of the pitfalls, some things you should think about before joining, and how you can better optimize yourself to ensure success. Before we get started into anything, please make sure you put your name and your email address down in the description. I'm planning to make a little supportive group where all of us can ask our questions, support each other, and guide us through this journey, which is hard in itself. Graduated from Gandhi Medical School in Sikandrabad. I graduated medical school in 2024, and I did a year of research after that before applying to the match, finally matching into a categorical general surgery residency program here in the United States. I will speak more about the research side of things as we get into it. Make sure you watch till the end of this video because there's a lot of nuances, a lot of advice I can give you from a personal standpoint about things, about the different aspects of the match and how you can better optimize your journey based off of it. Now, the first thing is always going to be for you to have a clear timeline in your head. I understand that life is difficult in itself, but it always helps to have a tentative sort of idea on how you're going to approach things, when are you going to take your steps, when are you going to do your electives, and if at all you're going to do research, and what timelines you have set for match. Now, match is a long drawn out marathon. Preparing for it requires you to have a clear timeline and goals. It might seem a little trivial and you might have the mindset that, okay, I'll alter things as they come, but it is very important that you have a set timeline because things rarely fall into place. First things first is you want to battle your steps. I think step 1 should be out of your way before you start your electives. That being said, I would really recommend applying for electives even before you're trying to take the steps. Why that's important is because a lot of these electives, your hands-on, sub-internships or electives, are competitive to get into and are going to require you to plan and apply ahead of time. So that will be very important. Since step 1 is a pass or fail test, so there's not really a big focus on how you score, although there is a baseline percentage that you must aim for in your practice test before you're ready to give it. Took my step 1 and then I went on to do my electives. I did 2 electives at Cleveland Clinic. I did 1 at UAB in Birmingham, Alabama, and I did 1 at San Antonio. While I was preparing for my electives, I was also sort of studying for step 2. Now, something I could have done better is take my step 2 before I started on my electives because my electives were very disruptive to my step 2 prep. I delayed my step 2. I was preparing for it even when I was doing my research, and I remember I took it midway between my research, which in hindsight wasn't the best way to go about it because research in itself requires a lot of dedication. To give you sort of the dates of when I took my steps, here is something. Before I go any further, I must remind you to hit the follow button or subscribe button. I will be releasing more videos about things, for example, on how to be more productive during your research year, how to take your steps more effectively, and appropriately plan your rank lists and things like that while applying for the match. So stay tuned. Back to when I was taking my steps. So these were dates when I took my steps. I can see it on my screen here. It says I took my step 1 on 9th of August 2023. So this was while I was in med school. I took my step 2 on 8th of January 2025. So that there you go, the big sort of my step 1 and step 2. And the reason why that happened, which I could have better planned for, was electives were a little disruptive to my step prep and my research as well. I was also in my research year while preparing for my step 2. So that also sort of added to that. And then I took my step 3 very recently, actually after the match on the 6th of May in 2026. So these were sort of my timeline of taking the steps. When it comes to electives, let's talk about electives. There are a lot of ways to go about it. A lot of people match with observerships, a lot of people match with telerotations or whatever. But something that I'm biased towards because it worked out for me to try to get quality sub-internships or electives, various other institutions that you can get your electives at. And the reason why that is important is because you are approaching the electives with the fact that you are trying to build a relationship with your mentors, and your mentors are eventually going to write you letters of recommendations. and your letters of recommendations have to come from places where it adds more validity to your application. What really matters in your letters of recommendations is that your mentors have something real and tangible to talk about. More of show don't tell sort of mentality, where they don't just name your characteristics but also sort of validate that with something that you did during the rotation that they thought was really exciting. When you're approaching your electives, something to keep in mind would be to schedule a meeting with your mentor or the person you're rotating with well ahead of time in your first week of your elective itself. I know 4 weeks of electives can be a really short time to build sort of a rapport with your mentor, but discussion, set up a meeting with your mentor. Be very clear about your expectations from the elective. You need to voice the fact that you are looking to get a letter of recommendation out of this elective based on your performance and how you perform during the elective. And you need to ask them how to better optimize yourself or make the best use of your time to reach that end goal of getting a good letter of recommendation. Whatever your mentor says, very seriously, make notes of that and make sure you arrive on time, you be punctual, and hit the sort of goals that are set for you in order to secure that letter of recommendation. It's very important that you have a conversation about this with the person you're rotating with. While you're doing your electives, it's also important that if you're planning, and that's why it goes to my first point that you need a clear timeline. If you're planning to do your research, I know a lot of people have matched without doing research. Something that was really useful to me is I come from a background of having no connections whatsoever to the faculty in the United States, different institutions. I don't have family here. It was a little tough for me initially to have the guidance. But that being said, the fact that you don't have connections or don't have people you know here should only motivate you to build those connections and take the time off to build those connections. And a year of research is what helped me sort of solidify those connections with my mentors and my PI, and to work with a group that is very productive. You should be doing electives at institutions that are very productive in terms of research. The reason being, while you're rotating with some of these faculties, you're also able to sort of put your resume forward and say that you're really interested in research and you want to work with them. Your work as an intern or sub-intern almost testifies to the fact that you might be a successful researcher with them and they're more likely to take you. I didn't know this before I went into research, and this is something I can sort of proactively tell you guys is very important, is to be involved with a large research group. And why that's important is because not only are you able to work on your research projects, you're also able to help your coworkers and other research fellows in their works, and that improves your productivity. Doing research, you need to be really mindful of your time and how you're spending your time. You need to build those relationships. If you don't have any relationships with faculties in the United States, you have to build those relationships with your mentors. And at the end of the day, you're also expecting a research letter of recommendation from your research mentor, and that also strengthens your application. Things to keep in mind again are work with a productive group. Research takes a long time. A single manuscript, starting from conception to final publication, takes a year or more because it's involved with a lot of reviews, and then you reply to those reviewer comments, and then you get a second set of review. Very rarely does something get published in the first go. While you're doing your research, things to keep in mind when you're applying for research also are going to a place that will cover your costs for abstract presentations. You really need to work with an institution that covers your travel to all these conferences, because otherwise things can get really expensive. And if you're coming from not a very well-off background, you need to be really mindful of your expenses. That being said, if you have the extra money to spare, and if you want to go to more conferences without the department sort of covering for it, you are fine to do that as well. You need to approach your research year with the sort of preparation of different deadlines for different abstract presentations and conferences. Some certain conferences that are important for surgery include ASC, Academic Surgical Congress, there is ACS, there is SAS, Society of Asian Academic Surgeons, there is Latin American Association as well. There are several other domain-specific Ones, I was involved in endocrine surgery research, so AAES was an important one for me. Now, knowing these conferences, there are various trainee-friendly conferences where you get to meet the faculty that you need to when it comes to making sure you have a successful match. And you need to be strategic about people you meet, how you approach them, having an elevator pitch, and demonstrating interest in their institutions while you're at the conference. And I can make a whole separate video about that. But these are things you need to know before you go into research, having those deadlines, because deadlines come and go, and no one is sort of at your behind once you've graduated medical school. It all falls onto you to make the best use of the time that you have. You don't want to miss deadlines, and you don't want to overcommit to people during your research year, and that is something that you need to really be mindful of. And once you're done with all of this, you're hopefully applying for the match. I was applying for the match while I was also doing research, so I continued my research year all the way until I moved to Omaha, Nebraska for my residency here. I am about to start my residency tomorrow, and that is why I'm making this video today before things get too busy. I had my letters in order. There's certain documents that you need to prepare for well ahead of the match, like your MSPE, your transcripts, your letters of recommendations. And I know you can only apply for your get your letters of recommendations when you have the ERAS token available. Something that you can ask your mentors to do is also have a PDF or a Word document ready with the things that you're possibly going to write on your letter after you've done your electives. I know certain people who do that. I asked for my letters of recommendations right before the match. I made sure I established long-standing connections with my mentors. I always used to follow up with them every couple of months, making sure I give them an update about how I'm doing and how my journey towards getting into general surgery residency is going. It's very important to do these things if you don't have a set number of connections in the United States. I'm assuming you already have your diploma and you have a good standing relationship with your medical school, because at the end of the day, they are going to be uploading your MSPs and transcripts onto my ERAS. Now, when it comes to your program list, to be strategic about this as well, I applied to about 150 programs, which is a lot compared to standard American medical graduates. I know some people who apply to more than 150. Some people apply to less than 150 to 70, 80 or more. But this is a very personal decision, and it's totally up to you about how you want to do this. Things to keep in mind are know who your letter writers are, know who they're connected with, and build your signal list from there. The third thing you also want to consider is what visas they sponsor. If you're a visa requiring IMG, the ball game is completely different for you. If they have step score filters, if they have visa sponsorship filters, and if that applies to you or not, you need to be very careful about that. Again, like I was saying before, people who you're connected with or you have important connections through your mentors or through the people you did electives with or research with, those are going to be important as well. Finally, you want to signal the programs, and this is something you need to have a conversation with one of your most trusted mentors or colleagues, and sit down with them, have a list prepared. Always be prepared if you're having a conversation with superior, and talk to them about what seems realistic. That you need to have a certain amount of certain programs that you're overshooting at, some things that fit into your resume and CV, and some backup programs as well. So you need to signal these programs and always have a conversation about this with a trusted senior or a mentor. Again, I'm assuming that you're also having conversations about preparing for your interviews, about your personal statement. I know we can be sometimes very narrow-minded and love the things that we produce. For example, personal statement, the first draft, you're going to think that, wow, this is the best thing I've ever written. But a second set of eyes, in fact, 10 other sets of eyes can really help you refine it and make it the best version possible. So I want you to have those conversations as well. And if all of these things are in place, I'm sure you'll be successful. I know this is a difficult journey as it is, and there's lots of steps that you're taking alone. And I want to remind you that you're not alone in this. There's a lot of people who are going through the same pathway. Make sure you put your name, phone number, and your email address down in the description, in the link. The only way we get through this is if we're together and we help each other and be supportive of each other. Just know that everyone around you is trying to help you. And don't forget to subscribe. More videos are coming. I'm going to be making more videos about how to write your personal statement, how to make sure you'll be very productive in your research year, how to make the match happen for you. And irrespective of the fact if you're an IM applicant, a medicine applicant, a general surgery applicant, radiology, whatnot, I think this advice applies broadly to all of those fields. And I hope you do well in your match. Follow for more.